The champagne fountain glittered like liquid gold under the ballroom chandeliers, but Sophia Carter kept her eyes on the auction sheets. Invisible. That was the rule. 5 years as the Wellington family's assistant had taught her that survival meant silence. Did you see what Victoria brought with her? The woman's voice cut through the chamber music. Can you imagine? Letting the help attend as guests. The borrowed burgundy dress suddenly felt like a costume. Sophia's hands trembled as she straightened the bid sheets, heat crawling up her neck. When she finally looked up, half a dozen pairs of eyes assessed her like a stain on expensive silk. She fled to the terrace. November wind bit through the thin fabric, but physical cold was easier than the chill of judgment. Escaping too? Sophia spun. A man emerged from the shadows, tall and dark-haired, wearing his tuxedo like a burden. James Hartwell. The Forbes cover. The tech billionaire who'd revolutionized healthcare. He stepped into the light, and his eyes held something unexpected. Understanding. I didn't mean to intrude, Sophia said. Please don't leave. His voice was warm, genuine. I was enjoying the quiet. She stayed, arms wrapped against the cold. He noticed her shiver and crossed the terrace, draping his jacket over her shoulders. The gesture froze her. Cedar and warmth enveloped her. I can't take this. You already have. A slight smile. I'm James. I know who you are. The words escaped before she could stop them. Heat flooded her cheeks. Everyone knows who you are. His smile faded. That's usually the problem. The terrace door burst open. Celeste Wellington appeared, her expression sharpening when she saw them together. Mr. Hartwell, Mother wants to introduce you to the board. Her gaze flickered to Sophia with venom. Sophia, the auction tables are a disaster. Get back inside. James's jaw tightened. Actually, I was just asking Sophia to dance. Silence swallowed the terrace. Celeste's mouth opened and closed. Sophia's heart hammered. I don't think that's appropriate, Celeste managed. I wasn't asking for permission. James turned to Sophia, extending his hand. Will you? Every instinct screamed no. Return to safety. Stay invisible. But something in his eyes made her reach out and place her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers. Warm. Solid. Real. They walked into the ballroom together. Heads turned. Whispers spread like fire. The orchestra played a waltz as James led her to the center of the floor with absolute confidence. I should warn you, Sophia whispered as his hand found her waist. I'm not very good at this. Neither am I. He guided her into a smooth turn that proved otherwise. I usually avoid these events entirely. Then why are you here? Obligation. My company donated the medical equipment tonight. Another turn. Why are you here? I work for the Wellington family. I'm their assistant. Something flickered across his face. You deserve better than that. You don't know anything about me. I know you ran out here because they hurt you. I know you're terrified right now but still dancing. I know courage when I see it. His grip tightened slightly. And I know the Wellingtons. The way he said their name sent ice through her veins. What does that mean? James opened his mouth to answer, but Victoria Wellington's voice cut through the music like a blade. Sophia Carter, step away from Mr. Hartwell this instant. The ballroom went silent. Every eye turned toward them. Victoria stood at the edge of the dance floor, her face pale with fury. You've caused enough embarrassment for one evening, Victoria continued, her voice shaking. Gather your things and leave. You're fired. The words hit like a physical blow. 5 years. Her apartment. Her visa status. Everything. Actually, James said quietly, still holding Sophia close, if she goes, so does my donation. All of it. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Victoria's eyes widened. You wouldn't dare. Try me. James's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Sophia stays. She dances. And you apologize. I will do no such thing. Victoria's hands trembled. You don't understand what you're protecting. This girl, she's nothing but. Careful, James interrupted, his tone dropping to something dangerous. Choose your next words very carefully, Victoria. Because I know exactly who Sophia is. Sophia's blood turned to ice. She pulled back slightly, looking up at James. What? He met her gaze, and in his eyes she saw something that made her stomach drop. Knowledge. Purpose. And beneath it all, guilt. James, she whispered. What did you just say? His hand tightened on hers. Sophia, I need you to trust me. How do you know who I am? The question hung in the air between them. The orchestra had stopped playing. 300 guests held their breath. James's expression cracked, just for a moment, revealing something raw beneath. Because I've been looking for you. For 3 years. The world tilted. Sophia tried to pull away, but he held firm. Let me explain, he said urgently. You know her? Victoria's voice was sharp with something that sounded like fear. I know everything, James said, his eyes never leaving Sophia's face. About the trust fund. About the real reason you're working for the Wellingtons. About what they've been hiding from you since you were 19 years old. Sophia felt the color drain from her face. That's impossible. Your father was Richard Carter. He worked with my father before the company went public. Before the accident. James's voice softened. Before the Wellingtons stole everything from your family and made you believe you had nothing. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Victoria's face had gone white. Celeste stood frozen, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers to shatter on the marble floor. Sophia couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. You're lying. I have proof. Documents. Contracts. Everything they made you sign when you took this job, it was all designed to keep you from ever discovering the truth. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to something fierce and protective. They owe you $47 million, Sophia. And I'm going to help you take every penny back. The terrace. The jacket. The dance. None of it had been chance. None of it had been real. You used me, she whispered. No. His grip tightened. Sophia, please. She yanked her hand free, backing away. The borrowed dress suddenly felt like chains. His jacket slipped from her shoulders to the floor. Stay away from me. Her voice broke. All of you. She ran. Past the shocked guests, past Victoria's pale face, past the shattered champagne glass that glittered like broken promises on the floor. She ran until she burst through the hotel's front doors into the November night. Behind her, she heard James calling her name. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because everything she thought she knew had just been revealed as a beautiful, devastating lie. And the worst part? She'd actually believed he might have wanted to dance with her for real. Sophia's apartment was a fifth-floor walk-up in Brooklyn, small enough that standing in the kitchen meant you were also in the living room. She'd made it home on autopilot, her mind replaying James's words on an endless loop. $47 million. Her father's name. A trust fund she'd never known existed. Rain hammered against the single window as she sat on her second-hand couch, still wearing the burgundy dress. Her phone had been ringing for 2 hours. Victoria. Celeste. Unknown numbers. She'd ignored them all. Until the knock came at her door. "Sophia, please. I know you're in there." James's voice. Of course it was. "Go away," she called out, her throat raw. "I'm not leaving. Not until you hear me out." A pause. "I'll stand here all night if I have to." She believed him. That was the problem. Despite everything, some part of her still wanted to believe. Sophia opened the door. He stood there soaked from the rain, his tuxedo jacket gone, his white shirt plastered to his chest. In his hands, he held a leather briefcase. "You look terrible," she said. "I feel worse." He met her gaze. "May I come in?" She should have said no. Should have slammed the door in his face. Instead, she stepped aside. James entered her tiny apartment, water dripping onto the worn hardwood. He looked around, taking in the space that probably cost less per month than his daily coffee budget. But there was no judgment in his eyes. Only something that looked like regret. "Talk," Sophia said, crossing her arms. "You have 5 minutes." He set the briefcase on her kitchen table and opened it. Inside were file folders, photographs, legal documents with official seals. "Your father, Richard Carter, was my father's business partner. They founded Hartwell Medical Technologies together 30 years ago. Your father held 49% of the company." James pulled out a photograph of 2 men in their 30s, arms around each other's shoulders, smiling at the camera. "That's them." Before everything went wrong. Sophia's breath caught. She'd seen pictures of her father, but this one was different. He looked happy. Alive. "He died when I was 6, she whispered. "Car accident. That's all I remember. My mother never talked about him. Because Victoria Wellington paid her not to." James pulled out a check stub, yellowed with age. $200,000. Signed by Victoria herself. Paid to your mother 3 months after your father's death, in exchange for her silence about the circumstances surrounding the accident. The room spun. What circumstances? James's jaw tightened. Your father didn't die in a random car accident, Sophia. He was driving home from a board meeting where he discovered that my father and the Wellingtons were cooking the books. They were embezzling from the company, using offshore accounts to hide the money. Your father threatened to go public. And they killed him? The words felt surreal in her mouth. The police ruled it brake failure. Mechanical error. But your father was obsessive about car maintenance. He just had the brake serviced the week before. James pulled out another document. This is the mechanic's report. It was buried in the case file. Someone tampered with the brake line. Sophia sank into her kitchen chair. Your father helped murder mine. My father died of a heart attack 6 months later. I think the guilt ate him alive. James sat across from her. I was 8 years old. I didn't find out any of this until 3 years ago, when I was going through his papers after my mother passed. That's when I discovered the truth. The offshore accounts. The evidence. Your father's share of the company. 49%, Sophia said numbly. Which is now worth $47 million. Rightfully yours. James pushed the documents toward her. The Wellingtons have been living off your family's money for 26 years. And when you showed up looking for work 5 years ago, broke and desperate, Victoria must have thought it was a gift. Keep you close. Keep you dependent. Make sure you never discovered the truth. She hired me knowing who I was. She hired you because of who you are. What better way to ensure you never asked questions than to make you grateful for their scraps? James's hands clenched into fists. I'm sorry. I should have approached you differently. But I didn't know how. I couldn't just call you and explain over the phone. I needed to meet you first. See if you'd even believe me. So you orchestrated the entire evening. Sophia's voice was hollow. The donation. Being at the gala. Asking me to dance. All of it was manipulation. The donation was real. My presence was calculated. He leaned forward. But Sophia, when I saw you on that terrace, when I gave you my jacket, when we danced, that wasn't part of any plan. That was real. How am I supposed to believe anything you say? You're not. Not yet. James stood, pulling out one more document. This is a contract. I've already filed the lawsuit against the Wellington estate. But I need your signature to move forward. Once you sign, we'll freeze their assets, subpoena their records, and prove what they did. Sophia stared at the paper. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. What happens to them? She asked quietly. If we win? They lose everything. The houses, the cars, the country club memberships. All of it built on stolen money. James's voice was hard. They'll be exactly what they tried to make you. Nothing. Something twisted in Sophia's chest. Victoria's cruelty. Celeste's disdain. 5 years of being treated like she was less than human. They deserved this. But there are people who work for them, she said slowly. The cook. The housekeeper. The driver. They'll lose their jobs. They'll find new ones. The Wellingtons won't. Sophia picked up the pen. Her hand hovered over the signature line. All she had to do was sign her name. Take back what was stolen. Watch them burn. The pen touched paper. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Sophia? A woman's voice, shaking. Familiar. It's Margaret. The housekeeper. Margaret? What's wrong? It's Mrs. Wellington. She collapsed after the gala. The ambulance just took her to Mount Sinai. They think it's her heart. A sob. Miss Celeste is asking for you. She said you're the only one who knows where Mrs. Wellington keeps her medication list. The pen slipped from Sophia's fingers. She looked at James, who was watching her carefully. I have to go, she said. Sophia, don't. This is exactly what they do. They manipulate. They use your kindness against you. Someone's dying, James. Someone who tried to destroy your life. Who stole from you. Who may have killed your father. His voice was urgent. Don't throw this away because of some misplaced sense of guilt. Sophia stood, grabbing her coat. I'm not signing anything until I know what kind of person I'm becoming by doing it. That's not how this works. If you walk out that door, they'll get to you first. They'll twist everything. Make you doubt the evidence. Then I'll doubt it. She met his eyes. I need to see them, James. I need to look Victoria in the face and know, really know, that she deserves this. And if you decide she does? Sophia picked up the contract and folded it into her pocket. Then I'll sign. But I make that choice. Not you. Not revenge. Me. She walked to the door, then paused. The dance was real for me too. That's why this hurts so much. James stood frozen as she left, the apartment door closing between them with a soft click that sounded like an ending. Outside, the rain had turned to sleet. Sophia hailed a cab, gave the driver the hospital address, and pressed her forehead against the cold window. $47 million. 5 years of humiliation. A father she'd never really known. And a choice that would define exactly who she was. The cab pulled up to Mount Sinai's emergency entrance. Through the glass doors, she could see Celeste Wellington pacing, her perfect composure shattered. When she spotted Sophia, something like relief flooded her face. Sophia took a deep breath and stepped into the hospital, where the scent of antiseptic and desperation hung heavy in the air. She didn't know yet that Victoria Wellington's collapse wasn't an accident. She didn't know that Margaret's call had been scripted. And she didn't know that in her coat pocket, the contract James had given her was about to be stolen by someone who'd been watching them both all along. The hospital room smelled of lilies and lies. Victoria Wellington lay propped against white pillows, her skin the color of old paper. And Unforgettable dripped steadily into her arm. She looked smaller than Sophia had ever seen her, fragile in a way that made guilt twist like a knife. "Thank God you came." Celeste grabbed Sophia's hands. Her perfect manicure was chipped, mascara smudged beneath red eyes. "Mother's been asking for you. She won't tell the doctors anything until she speaks with you." "Why me?" Sophia asked carefully. "Because you're the only one who knows where everything is. The medication list. Her doctor's information. The insurance cards." Celeste's voice cracked. "Please, Sophia. I know we've been terrible to you. But she's my mother." Victoria's eyes fluttered open. When she saw Sophia, something passed across her face. Not relief. Recognition. Like a chess player spotting a familiar move. "Everyone out," Victoria whispered. "Just Sophia." Celeste hesitated, then nodded. She squeezed Sophia's arm before leaving. The door clicked shut, sealing them in antiseptic silence. "You must hate me," Victoria said quietly. Sophia said nothing. "James Hartwell told you everything, didn't he? About your father? About the money?" Victoria's laugh was bitter. "I saw it in your eyes at the gala. That moment when everything you thought you knew shattered. You paid my mother to be silent about murder. I paid your mother to protect my family from a scandal that would have destroyed us all." Victoria's voice strengthened slightly. "Your father was going to take everything public. Not just the embezzlement. Everything. Do you know what that would have meant? Prison. Bankruptcy. My daughters would have grown up with nothing. So you killed him." "I didn't kill anyone." Victoria's eyes were steel beneath the weakness. "But I didn't stop it either. And I've lived with that choice every single day for 26 years. The honesty was more disturbing than a lie would have been." "The heart attack," Sophia said slowly. "It's not real, is it? This is theater." Victoria smiled, and for a moment, she looked exactly like herself again. The EKG showed real irregularities. The stress is real. But amplified for effect? Perhaps. She gestured to the chair beside her bed. "Sit. Please. What I need to tell you won't take long." Sophia remained standing. "I'm not interested in more manipulation." "Then call it the truth. One last time." Victoria's hand moved to her bedside table, pulling out a manila envelope. "James Hartwell showed you documents. Proof of what we did. What he didn't show you was this." She held out the envelope. Sophia didn't take it. "Your father wasn't the saint James made him out to be," Victoria continued. "He was embezzling too. Long before we were. These are his offshore accounts. $17 million hidden from everyone, including your mother. Hidden from you. You're lying." "I'm dying, Sophia. What would be the point?" Victoria's voice softened. "Your father was brilliant and charming and deeply, profoundly selfish. He would have burned the company to the ground to save himself, and he would have let all of us take the fall. We were protecting ourselves from him as much as our own crimes." Sophia's hands shook as she took the envelope. Inside were bank statements, transfer records, documents with her father's signature. "Everyone involved was guilty," Victoria said. "The only innocent people were you and James. Children who inherited our sins." She paused. But here's what James didn't tell you. Why he really wants to destroy us. Revenge for his father. No. Control. Victoria sat up slightly, her eyes bright with fever or malice. James Hartwell has spent 3 years systematically acquiring pieces of Hartwell Medical Technologies. He needs your 49% to take back majority control from the board. This isn't about justice. It's about power. And you're the key to giving it to him. The room tilted. You're saying he's using me. I'm saying everyone uses everyone, darling. The question is, who are you willing to be used by? Victoria reached for Sophia's hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Sign his contract, and you'll get your money. But you'll also make James Hartwell one of the most powerful men in healthcare. A man who orchestrated an entire evening to manipulate you. A man who's already proven he'll do anything to get what he wants. And if I don't sign? Then nothing changes. You remain my assistant. I add a 0 to your salary. And we all keep our secrets buried where they belong. Victoria's thumb rubbed across Sophia's knuckles. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm asking for your silence. For my daughters, if not for me. The door burst open. James stood in the doorway, his hair wild, his shirt untucked. His eyes went immediately to Victoria's hand holding Sophia's. Step away from her, he said, his voice dangerous. James. Victoria smiled. Right on time. How did you know I'd be here? Sophia asked. I followed you. I was worried you'd. He stopped, registering the envelope in her hands. What did she give you? The truth, Victoria said. About her father. About you. About what you really want. James's face went pale. Sophia, whatever she said. Is it true? Sophia's voice cut through the room. That you need my shares to take control of the company? Silence. The machines beeped steadily. Outside, a siren wailed past. Yes, James said finally. But that doesn't change what they did to your family. It changes everything about your motives. Sophia stood, the envelope clutched in her hands. You used me. I'm trying to make things right. No. You're trying to win. She looked between them, Victoria in her hospital bed, James in the doorway. Two people who'd built their lives on manipulation and justified it as necessity. You're both exactly the same. That's not fair, James said. Fair? Sophia laughed, and it sounded broken even to her own ears. My father was a thief. Your father was a murderer. Victoria covered it all up. And you turned my trauma into a business strategy. Where exactly is the fairness in any of this? She walked toward the door. James didn't move. If you leave now, Victoria called out, you walk away from $47 million. If you leave now, James countered, his voice low, they win. Everything your father died for, it all disappears. Sophia stopped. Turned. Looked at both of them. My father died because he was a criminal who got caught. Your father died because guilt has teeth. And Victoria will die knowing she built her empire on blood. She pulled the folded contract from her pocket, along with a lighter she'd found on the nurse's station counter. I'm not going to be another piece in anyone's game. She lit the corner of the contract. It caught instantly, flame eating through James's carefully crafted plans. The smoke alarm shrieked. Nurses came running. In the chaos, Sophia slipped past James and into the hallway. Behind her, she heard Victoria's laughter and James shouting her name. She kept walking. She made it to the elevator before someone grabbed her arm. She spun, expecting James. It was Celeste. I heard everything, Celeste said, her face streaked with tears. The room has cameras. Security protocol for high-profile patients. I was watching from the nurse's station. Sophia tried to pull away, but Celeste's grip tightened. My mother is a monster. I've always known. Celeste's voice was shaking. But she's my monster. And you just saved her from James Hartwell. Why? I didn't save anyone. I refuse to be used. That's not entirely true. Celeste reached into her purse and pulled out a phone. She tapped the screen, and a recording played. Victoria's voice, crystal clear, the EKG showed real irregularities. The stress is real. But amplified for effect? Perhaps. Sophia's stomach dropped. You recorded her confessing to faking the heart attack. I recorded everything. Her confession about your father. The offshore accounts. All of it. Celeste held out the phone. Take it. Go to the police. The press. Whoever will listen. Burn it all down. Why would you do that? Celeste's smile was sad and strange. Because I'm tired, Sophia. Tired of the lies. Tired of being Victoria Wellington's daughter. Tired of knowing that everything I am is built on someone else's grave. She pressed the phone into Sophia's hands. Maybe if it all falls apart, I can finally figure out who I am underneath. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Or maybe, Celeste said quietly, I'm just as much of a manipulator as the rest of them, and this is my way of winning. Sophia stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, she saw Celeste turn and walk back toward her mother's room. Victoria's daughter. James's pawn. Or something else entirely. In her hands, Sophia held a phone full of confessions and an envelope full of her father's sins. The elevator descended, carrying her away from the hospital, away from James and Victoria and their decades of lies. But she wasn't going home. Not yet. She had one more stop to make. One more person who deserved to know the truth before she decided what to do with it. Because buried in her father's offshore accounts, she'd spotted something Victoria probably hadn't noticed. A name on one of the transfers. Her mother's name. And suddenly, everything she thought she knew about her own family shattered again. Her mother's apartment in Queens still smelled like lavender and regret. Sophia stood outside the door at 3 a.m, rain soaking through her coat, the phone and envelope heavy in her pocket. She hadn't called ahead. Some conversations couldn't happen over the phone. The door opened before she could knock. Her mother stood there in a faded robe, her hair gray and loose around her shoulders. Elena Carter had aged 20 years in the past 5, worn down by secrets Sophia was only beginning to understand. You know, her mother said quietly. Somehow, you know. James Hartwell told me about the Wellington payment. Victoria showed me Dad's offshore accounts. Sophia's voice was hollow. But what they didn't explain was why your name appears on transfer records from 3 months before Dad died. $700,000, moved from his hidden account to yours. Elena's face crumpled. She stepped back, letting Sophia inside. The apartment was small, immaculate, filled with photographs of a life that had been a carefully constructed lie. Sit, Elena said. I'll make tea. I don't want tea. I want the truth. Elena's hands trembled as she lowered herself into a chair. Your father was planning to run. Take the money and disappear. Leave me. Leave you. Start over somewhere the Wellingtons and the Hartwells couldn't touch him. Sophia felt something inside her crack. He was abandoning us. He transferred money to my account as guilt payment. $700,000 to raise you alone while he vanished into whatever new life he'd built. Elena's voice was bitter. I confronted him the night before the accident. We fought. I told him if he left, I'd expose everything. The embezzlement. The offshore accounts. All of it. So you called Victoria. Elena's silence was answer enough. You told them what Dad was planning, Sophia continued, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. You knew they'd stop him. I thought they'd threaten him. Blackmail him into staying. I didn't know, Elena's voice broke. I didn't know they'd cut his brake line. I didn't know they'd kill him. The room spun. Sophia gripped the armrest to steady herself. Victoria paid you to be silent about the accident, she said. But really, she was paying you to be silent about your own involvement. You weren't a victim. You were an accomplice. I was a desperate woman trying to keep her family together. Elena reached for Sophia's hand. Sophia pulled away. Everything I did for you. Don't you dare make this about protecting me. Sophia stood, pacing. You let me grow up thinking my father was a hero who died tragically. You let me work for the Wellingtons, let them humiliate me, knowing the entire time what they'd done. What you'd helped them do. I couldn't tell you. If you knew, you'd have gone to the police. They would have investigated. They would have found the money, the transfers, my call to Victoria. Elena's eyes were red. We would have both ended up in prison. So you chose yourself over the truth. I chose you over revenge. Elena's voice hardened. You think justice would have brought your father back? You think destroying the Wellingtons would have changed anything? I took their blood money and I used it to raise you. To keep you safe. To make sure you had a chance at a better life than any of us deserved. Sophia pulled out Celeste's phone. Victoria confessed to faking tonight's heart attack. To manipulating me. All of it is recorded. If I give this to the police, the entire thing unravels. The Wellingtons go down. James gets his company back. And the investigation will lead straight to you. Elena went very still. What are you going to do? The question hung between them, heavy with decades of choices that couldn't be undone. Sophia looked at her mother, really looked at her. The lines around her eyes. The tremor in her hands. The woman who'd raised her alone, who'd sacrificed everything for a daughter she was trying to protect from ugly truths. The woman who'd helped murder her own husband. I don't know, Sophia whispered. Her phone buzzed. A text from James, please. Let me explain everything. I'm outside your building. Another text, from an unknown number, this is Celeste. My mother knows I gave you the recording. She's threatening to destroy my sister's career, my inheritance, everything. Please don't use it. I was wrong. And then, impossibly, a text from Victoria herself, I'm prepared to offer you $10 million for that phone. Cash. Untraceable. Tonight. Sophia stared at the messages. 3 different people, 3 different agendas, all wanting to control what she did next. They're all terrified of you right now, Elena said, reading over her shoulder. You hold all the power. I don't want power. I want, Sophia stopped. What did she want? Justice for a father who was a thief and a coward? Revenge against people who were no worse than her own mother? Money that was soaked in blood? You want it to have meant something, Elena finished softly. You want all this pain and death and betrayal to add up to something that makes sense. But it doesn't. It never does. All you can do is decide what kind of person you're going to be moving forward. Sophia looked at the phone in her hand. The recordings. The evidence. The power to destroy everyone who'd hurt her. Then she looked at her mother. Flawed. Guilty. Human. James showed me legal documents, Sophia said quietly. If I'd signed them, I would have gotten $47 million. But I burned the contract. Why? Because I didn't want to be the person who profited from my father's death. Sophia held up the phone. And I don't want to be the person who uses other people's secrets as weapons, even if they deserve it. She walked to the kitchen sink. Elena followed, watching as Sophia turned on the water. "What are you doing?" Elena asked. Sophia held the phone over the sink. "Something stupid. Probably." She met her mother's eyes. "But you said I get to decide who I'm going to be. This is my choice." She dropped the phone. It hit the water with a splash, the screen flickering once before going dark. All of Victoria's confessions. All of Celeste's recorded evidence. Gone. Elena gasped. Sophia, that was worth millions. That was justice. That was revenge pretending to be justice. Sophia dried her hands on a towel. The recordings are gone. The contract is burned. I have no legal proof of anything. Then what was the point of any of this? The point is that I know now. I know who my father really was. I know what you did. I know what the Wellingtons are capable of. Sophia pulled the envelope of her father's offshore account information from her pocket. And I know these accounts still exist. $17 million that my father stole, sitting untouched for 26 years. Elena's eyes widened. What are you going to do with them? I'm going to find every person my father embezzled from. Every employee who lost their pension when the company almost collapsed. Every family that suffered because of what he did. Sophia tucked the envelope back into her pocket. And I'm going to make it right. Anonymously. No press. No glory. Just restitution. That's insane. That money is rightfully yours. Nothing about this money is rightful. Sophia headed for the door. I'm done inheriting other people's sins. I'm done being used. I'm done playing their games. Where are you going? Sophia paused at the doorway. James is outside my building. I'm going to tell him that I'm not signing anything, I'm not helping him take over his company, and I'm not interested in being his redemption story. She looked back at her mother. And then I'm going to start over. New job. New apartment. New life. Built on my own terms, with my own choices. They'll come after you. The Wellingtons. James. They won't let you just walk away. Then they'll have to catch me first. Sophia opened the door. Dawn was starting to break over Queens, pale light filtering through storm clouds. I forgive you, Mom. I don't know if I can ever forget what you did. But I forgive you. That's my choice too. Elena's sob followed her into the hallway. Sophia made it to her apartment building just as the sun fully rose. James was sitting on the front steps, his expensive suit rumpled, his face haggard. When he saw her, he stood. I've been calling, he said. I know. Sophia, about the contract. I don't care about the contract. I don't care about the company. I don't care about revenge or justice or any of it. She stopped in front of him. I care that when you looked at me on that terrace, I felt seen for the first time in my life. And it was all calculation. Strategy. A means to an end. It wasn't, James said urgently. Not all of it. When I gave you my jacket, when we danced, when I told you that you deserved better, I meant it. All of it. How am I supposed to believe that? You're not. Not yet. He pulled something from his pocket. A check. Made out to Sophia Carter for $47 million. I had my lawyers draw up new papers. You sign, you get the money, no strings attached. I don't need your shares. I'll find another way to take back the company. Sophia stared at the check. More money than she could imagine. Freedom. Security. Everything she'd never had. She took it from his hands. And tore it in half. What are you doing? James looked stricken. I'm choosing who I want to be. Sophia let the pieces flutter to the ground. I'm not my father. I'm not Victoria. I'm not you. I don't want money built on death and lies. Then what do you want? Sophia met his eyes. I want you to walk away. Stop trying to destroy the Wellingtons. Stop trying to save me. Stop trying to make your father's mistakes right. Just stop. I can't. Not after everything they've done. Then you're no better than they are. Sophia turned toward her building. Goodbye, James. She made it 3 steps before he called out. I'm in love with you. The words stopped her cold. She turned slowly. James stood in the morning light, looking broken and honest in a way she'd never seen him. I know I don't have the right to say it, he continued. I know I've manipulated and calculated and used you. But somewhere between the terrace and the dance floor and right now, it stopped being strategy and started being real. I'm in love with you, Sophia. And I don't know how to make you believe that. Sophia's heart hammered. You don't get to say that. Not now. Not after everything. I know. But it's true anyway. He stepped closer. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm walking away. From the company, from the lawsuit, from all of it. I'll find another path forward that doesn't require destroying anyone. And in 6 months, if I've proven that I can be better than my worst impulses, I'm going to find you and ask if you'll have dinner with me. Just dinner. No agenda. No manipulation. Just 2 people trying to figure out if something real can grow from broken beginnings. And if I say no? Then I'll respect that. James's smile was sad. But I hope you won't. He walked away. Sophia watched him go, watched him disappear into the crowd of early morning commuters, just another man in a suit trying to outrun his father's sins. She climbed the stairs to her apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. The phone on her kitchen table buzzed. A text from an unknown number, coffee shop on 5th and 42nd. 1 hour. Come alone. V. Victoria Wellington. One last game. Sophia should have deleted it. Should have blocked the number. Should have started packing to leave the city like she'd planned. Instead, she texted back, I'll be there. Because maybe she wasn't quite done inheriting other people's sins after all. The coffee shop was empty except for Victoria Wellington, sitting in a corner booth like a queen in exile. She'd traded her hospital gown for a charcoal suit, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. The only evidence of last night was a slight tremor in her hands as she raised her coffee cup. You came, Victoria said as Sophia slid into the seat across from her. You knew I would. I know you're curious. That's your fatal flaw, Sophia. You always need to understand the why behind people's choices. Victoria's smile was knowing. It's what made you such an excellent assistant. You never just followed orders. You studied us. Learned us. Anticipated what we needed before we knew ourselves. Is that supposed to be a compliment? It's an observation. Victoria pushed an envelope across the table. Not the offshore accounts this time. Something else. Open it. Inside were 3 things. A handwritten letter. A photograph. And a key. The photograph showed 2 women in their 20s, laughing, arms around each other. One was clearly a young Victoria. The other looked hauntingly familiar. That's my mother, Sophia whispered. We were roommates at NYU. Best friends for 4 years before your father came into the picture. Victoria's voice was soft with old memory. I introduced them, actually. Thought they'd be perfect together. I was right. Elena was brilliant and fierce. Richard was charming and ambitious. They fell in love so quickly it made the rest of us dizzy. Sophia stared at the photograph. Her mother had never mentioned knowing Victoria before her father's death. What changed? Richard changed. The company was growing faster than anyone anticipated. The money started rolling in. And your father started believing his own mythology. Victoria took a sip of coffee. He had an affair. Then another. Then a string of them. Elena knew. She always knew. But she stayed because leaving meant admitting failure. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand that when Elena called me the night before Richard's death, she wasn't trying to get him killed. She was trying to save their marriage. She begged me to help her make him stay. Make him be the man she'd fallen in love with. Victoria's eyes were bright. I promised her I would. And I meant it. But you had him killed instead. I had him removed as a threat. There's a difference. Victoria's voice hardened. Richard had become unstable. He was threatening to expose not just the embezzlement, but company secrets that would have destroyed the entire healthcare technology sector. Patents that weren't properly filed. Clinical trials that had been manipulated. It was bigger than just our money, Sophia. It was hundreds of thousands of patients who relied on our equipment. So you justified murder as the greater good. I justified survival. His death was supposed to look like an accident. Clean. Simple. But the mechanic we hired got sloppy. Your mother figured it out. And I paid her to be silent not just to protect myself, but to protect her. Victoria leaned forward. If the police had investigated properly, Elena's call to me the night before would have come to light. She would have been charged as an accessory. You would have ended up in foster care. Sophia felt sick. She knows this. That you were protecting her too. She's always known. That's why she let you work for me. That's why she never told you the truth. Because we were bound together by what we'd done. Two women trying to survive the fallout of one man's selfishness. And my father's money? The offshore accounts? Victoria gestured to the envelope. The letter is a full accounting of where every dollar came from and where it should go. I've spent 26 years tracking it. Every embezzlement. Every victim. Every family that was hurt. She slid the key across the table. This is to a safety deposit box at Chase Manhattan. Inside are cashier's checks made out to every person your father stole from. $17 million, divided among 43 families. All that's missing is someone to deliver them. Sophia picked up the key. It was warm from Victoria's hand. Why not do it yourself? Because I'm dying, Sophia. For real this time. Victoria's smile was bitter. The heart attack last night was theater. But the cancer isn't. Stage 4. Pancreatic. I have maybe 3 months. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small. Too warm. Sophia couldn't breathe. You're lying. I wish I were. Victoria pulled out a medical report, official and stark. I found out 2 weeks ago. That's why I had you working the charity gala. I wanted to see you one last time in the world I'd built. Wanted to remind myself what all those compromises had bought me. And James? His appearance there? Pure coincidence. Or fate, if you believe in such things. Victoria's laugh was hollow. He spent 3 years preparing to destroy me, and I'm going to die before he gets the satisfaction. That's almost funny. What do you want from me? I want you to finish what I started. Deliver those checks. Make amends for your father's crimes. And then, Victoria pulled out one more document. A will. Then I want you to have something too. Sophia stared at the paper Victoria pushed across the table. It was a trust fund. For her. $15 million. I can't accept this. It's not from the embezzled money. It's from my own investments. Money I earned legitimately. Victoria's voice was fierce. You've worked for my family for 5 years. You've endured our cruelty with grace. You've protected my daughters even when they treated you like garbage. This is your severance package, Sophia. Take it. Why? Because Elena was my best friend before she was your mother. Because I owe her more than I can ever repay. And because you remind me of who I used to be before I let fear turn me into a monster. Victoria stood, gathering her things. You have a choice now. Take the money and start over. Or walk away with nothing and remain pure. Either way, the checks in that safety deposit box need to be delivered. She headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Victoria said quietly, James Hartwell meant what he said this morning. I had him followed. He really did walk away from his lawsuit. Dissolved the entire legal team. He's trying to be better for you. How do you know what he said to me? Because I've been having you both followed for 3 years. How do you think James found you in the first place? Victoria's smile was sad. I led him right to you. Wanted to see if he'd choose revenge or redemption when it came down to it. You made him choose redemption. That's more than I ever managed with anyone. She left. The door chimed behind her, and Sophia sat alone in the coffee shop with an envelope full of choices. She spent the next 2 days delivering the checks. 43 families. 43 conversations where she explained that their losses from 26 years ago were being repaid. She didn't tell them about her father. Didn't explain the full story. Just handed them certified checks and watched as their faces transformed from suspicion to shock to tears. An elderly couple in New Jersey who'd lost their retirement. A single mother in Connecticut whose husband had died from stress-related illness after losing everything. A young man whose college fund had disappeared, forcing him to drop out and work construction. By the time she delivered the last check, Sophia understood something that James and Victoria and even her mother had missed. This wasn't about the money. It wasn't about justice or revenge or redemption. It was about acknowledgement. About saying, what happened to you mattered. Your pain was real. And someone finally cared enough to try to make it right. On the 3rd day, Sophia went back to Victoria's apartment. The housekeeper, Margaret, opened the door with red eyes. She passed this morning, Margaret said. Peacefully. Ms. Celeste is with the funeral home. Sophia felt the grief hit her, unexpected and complicated. Can I see her? Margaret led her to Victoria's bedroom. The woman who'd ruled Manhattan society lay still and small beneath white sheets. On the nightstand was a photograph. The one from the coffee shop. Victoria and Elena, young and laughing and unbroken. There was a note beneath it, in Victoria's elegant handwriting. Thank you for giving me a choice at the end. I'm sorry I couldn't give your father the same. V. Sophia folded the note and slipped it into her pocket. 6 months later, she was sitting in a small Italian restaurant in Brooklyn when James Hartwell walked in. He looked different. His hair was longer, his suit less severe. When he saw her, his entire face transformed. You came, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. You asked. 6 months ago. Sophia smiled. I'm curious to see if people can really change. Can they? I don't know yet. That's what tonight is for. She gestured to the menu. What's good here? They ordered food. They talked about safe things at first. The weather. The city. His new venture, developing free healthcare clinics in underserved neighborhoods. Her new job, working for a nonprofit that helped families recover from financial fraud. Neither of them mentioned the Wellingtons. Neither of them mentioned the money. Finally, over tiramisu and espresso, James reached across the table and took her hand. "I need to tell you something," he said. "About the night of the gala. When I first saw you on that terrace." "James, we don't have to. Please. Let me say this." He squeezed her hand. "I was supposed to introduce myself. Start the conversation that would lead to me showing you the documents. Playing the hero. But when I saw you standing there, shivering in that borrowed dress, looking like you were holding the weight of the world on your shoulders, I forgot my entire plan. For 3 full minutes, I just watched you. And I thought, she's the strongest person I've ever seen." Sophia's throat tightened. "I was running away. You were surviving. There's a difference." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I fell in love with you in those 3 minutes, Sophia. Everything that came after, the manipulation, the documents, the lawsuit, that was me trying to rationalize feelings that terrified me. Because loving you meant I couldn't just be about revenge anymore. I had to be better. I had to deserve you." "And do you? Deserve me?" James smiled. "Probably not. But I'm working on it." Sophia looked at their intertwined hands. Two people built from broken families and complicated legacies, trying to figure out if something real could grow from ashes. "I accepted Victoria's trust fund," she said quietly. $15 million. I used half of it to expand the nonprofit. The other half I'm saving. For what? I don't know yet. Maybe a future. Maybe a family. Maybe just security so I never have to be afraid again. She met his eyes. "Does it bother you that I took blood money? Does it bother you that I'm still a Hartwell? That I come from the same place as all that pain?" "Every single day," Sophia admitted. "But I'm choosing to believe we get to be more than our worst inheritance." "Then that's what we'll be." James raised his espresso cup. "To being more than our fathers made us." Sophia clinked her cup against his. "To choosing who we become." They finished their meal. They walked through Brooklyn as the sun set, turning the sky purple and gold. When James asked if he could see her again, Sophia said yes. When he asked if he could kiss her, she kissed him first. And when he asked if she thought they had a chance at happiness despite everything that had brought them together, she told him the truth. "I think happiness is something we build, not something we inherit. I think we're both broken enough to understand each other and brave enough to try anyway." She took his hand. "And I think if we're very careful, very honest, and very patient, we might just make it." He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "I'll take those odds." Somewhere in Manhattan, Celeste Wellington was cleaning out her mother's apartment, finding letters and photographs that told a different story than the one she'd grown up believing. She would read them all. She would grieve. She would eventually understand. Somewhere in Queens, Elena Carter was attending therapy, finally unpacking the guilt she'd carried for 26 years. She would never be free of it. But she would learn to carry it differently. And somewhere between Brooklyn and Manhattan, two people who'd been built from other people's sins were learning to build something of their own. Something honest. Something earned. Something that belonged only to them. The scars remained. The past never truly disappeared. But Sophia and James walked forward anyway, choosing each moment carefully, choosing each other intentionally, choosing to believe that redemption wasn't about erasing the past but about refusing to let it define the future. 6 months became a year. A year became 2. They fought. They stumbled. They hurt each other and healed each other and learned that love built on truth was always harder and always better than love built on illusion. On their wedding day, James wore his father's watch and Sophia wore her mother's pearls. Not as symbols of the past they inherited, but as acknowledgments that they came from somewhere, were shaped by something, and chose to honor that while becoming something new. The first dance was a waltz. And this time, when they held each other, there was nothing calculated. Nothing strategic. Nothing but two people who'd learned that the most powerful choice was simply choosing to stay. The end.